Hey everyone, welcome to another segment of our daily devotional. Today I have with me Clevie from New Hope Church. He is the youth pastor there. And we're going to come together and we're going to talk about this idea of God the Son coming down in the flesh. Clevie, do you want to share some of your thoughts with us about Christ coming as the Incarnate Son?
Well, it's Palm Sunday this Sunday. So you've got, Jesus is intentionally going to Jerusalem to die, which is a really strange, shocking thought. But he knew what he was coming to do, as you said, incarnate, as God in the flesh. Colossians 1:15 says, he's the image of the invisible God, referring to Jesus. Jesus is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. And I was just thinking back, like, as a teenager reading that, I would be like, wait a minute, that sounds a lot like, God saying his son, he created his son. That idea of how Jesus is the firstborn of creation is more explained. And it's that, like Paul goes on to say, for by Jesus, all things were created. And just this whole idea of everything in the universe was created through Jesus, for Jesus. And that's a huge thought of even back in the, Genesis 1, where God is creating and speaking, just the thought that, oh, you mean Jesus was back then? Yeah, he was. I mean, he wasn't ever created, so he never had a beginning. So there's just some good things we're kind of exposed to.
One thing is, I think about Jesus coming down as man, as us being able to really like see, smell, touch, and feel God, as much as we talked about yesterday about how hard sometimes it is to recognize who God is. Or one thing that I pulled out that I'm going to read, John 1 through 12, says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was nothing. Anything was made with him. In him was life, and life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was the Word, and the Word was made through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to his own people, and they did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believe his name, he gave the right to become children of God. And what I love about this verse is it really encapsulates the depth, the darkness of sometimes of our heart. And I think about Jesus being God and being the creator. And I think about even when my kids make something, especially my son, when he builds a tower or makes a Lego structure, and one of his sisters comes along and breaks it, he gets so upset. He gets so frustrated because that was his creation, that was his building, and someone came along who it didn't belong to and destroys it. And I think about Jesus being in the beginning, being part of creation. And in John it says, without him nothing was created, nothing came to be. But yet then we see when he comes to earth, his very creation, the thing that he loved, the thing that he came to save, the thing that literally he's coming out of heaven down to earth for, rejects him. And when we think about who God is, I think Palm Sunday best describes our reaction of how we should treat God. And as we walk and as we think about today, who is Jesus and where is the hope that he brings, I think that we can see that Jesus is, in a sense, hope coming down to earth to save humanity.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say this. I like how you said about how he came and we rejected him as humanity. And I was thinking about, in my life when I was in high school, middle school, high school, I was in a place where, I knew about Jesus, I knew about his coming, but like in my heart, I had not really received him. Very much rejecting of Christ as far as like him taking up residence in my heart. I'm just praying maybe through this time of, social distancing and everything going on with the virus, I just pray that we would not continue to have this rejection kind of attitude that you were reading from John, but we would maybe for the first time, through getting in the Word as a youth group, through thinking about our life and realizing, hey, the world is unstable and Christ is the most stable. Like, he created the universe. He's the one thing, the one person that isn't being shaken right now. And so I just pray that this is actually a repentance and an acceptance that happens among youth, like at your church and my church.
Yeah, just to think, social distancing, how much we kind of push each other away. And in my sermon Sunday, I talked about, how when we see people who are sick or potentially sick, I mean, we stay in our houses, we push them away. Just the idea of someone maybe being sick. And I talked about this idea that when we were infected with sin, God was up in heaven. I mean, he had the greatest social distance ever, but yet he wasn't content to have that social distance. Rather, he's like, no, I'm going to come down into this infection, into this disease called sin, and I'm going to get the punishment, the repercussions from it, so others can step out of it. And man, what an encouragement to know that we have a God who is not disgusted by us, that sin, does push us away from him, does create a gap, but yet we have a God who wants us, who is not content to let us stay in this sin, but rather calls us to be his children of all things, not just to be a friend or someone to hang out with, but like his family. As we look at God and as we think about Jesus being God's son, and we see how God treats Jesus, he treats him with absolute respect. They are completely equal. But yet sometimes I think when we go through hard times, we're like, well, how could God be real? Why would he let this happen to me? But yet when we look at Jesus, it's almost a reminder to us that if we're a child of God, we, in a sense, are like Jesus's like adopted siblings in a way. It's important for us to realize the steps that Jesus went through as God's child, and how we should expect our life to go as God's child.
That's a really great example of how to see the gospel. This has even given us a chance to see the gospel in a whole different light, to appreciate what Jesus did. Like, you receive Christ in your life, and you're also receiving his mission. It's a beautiful picture of the gospel that's happening right now.
Absolutely. So, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. New Hope Youth Group, I hope you get to see this. I want to encourage you. Clevie is leading you very, very well. You guys got an awesome youth pastor who loves you. I know that he can't wait for this to be over so he can actually see you guys, talk to you guys. But find that time. Don't social distance yourself from Jesus during this time. Don't use this time to step away from faith just because you don't have to go to youth group. If that's what your faith is about, then that's not really faith, that's an activity. We encourage you to make your faith not an activity, but a relationship. So I hope you guys have a great day, somehow enjoy the weather, and also somehow share the gospel with someone today. We love you guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.